What's up, YouTube? This is Sly88Fry here, and welcome to my long-awaited review of the Sonic movie. Spoiler alert, you've been warned.
So, you have a movie for me?
Oh, absolutely not.
Thanks to Hulu having it available, I have finally seen the Sonic movie, which came out to theaters on Valentine's Day of 2020. I missed out on its shortened theater run as a result of the pandemic fully getting into motion in March. I have not watched reviews of this movie except from my acquaintance, the Retro Critic, who has done a lot more movie reviews than I. I do suggest checking out his review of this film as well to hear a different perspective. I watched the Sonic movie with my wife and we had a blast, to put it simply. Okay, end of video. We are done here. It's awesome. Okay, no. Let's get into more detail and point out what was so great about the film and find the flaws too. I'm not sure if it was necessary to start off the film at this point here with Sonic being chased by Robotnik, which is something that happens really late into the film. I think it works, but maybe they didn't have to start here. Sonic narrates this part of the film and then takes us back to the beginning, and he doesn't narrate again until we get back to this part again. It's a lot like The Emperor's New Groove in this regard, and I love that film.
Will you take a look at that? Pretty pathetic, huh? Well, you'll never believe this, but that llama you're looking at was once a human being.
Let's back up.
So this is good. Now we go to when Sonic is really young. Paramount, or whoever, decided to take liberties with this and start a new character for the film. A big, strong, caring owl named Longclaw is in charge of protecting baby Sonic. She is very overprotective because she is so worried about the wrong people seeing Sonic's powers. You get a nice view of Green Hill Zone at the beginning, and even a nice remix of the Green Hill Zone music from Sonic 1. You get to see right away how nice a guy Sonic is and how innocent he is at such a young age already. He ran fast for fun, but still cared about his guardian and gave her a nice flower. Unfortunately, there is an echidna tribe who saw Sonic running at blazing fast speeds. I love that they chose echidnas. Yes, like how Knuckles is an echidna. But of course, none of these guys are Knuckles. This echidna tribe, in fact, reminds me of the ancient echidnas you learn about in flashbacks on Sonic Adventure 1. A tribe led by a power-hungry leader.
To call, the 7 emeralds are essential to our survival. It is for the good of all our people.
How can I make you understand? Attacking other countries, stealing and killing can't be the right path to peace. No one has the right to take their holy grounds. I beg you, Father.
And used his tribe to overpower anyone who would get in his way. Obviously, in this case, it is an echidna tribe that wants the power of Sonic. Longclaw does whatever she can to protect him, but ultimately is completely overwhelmed by the echidnas. Sonic escapes thanks to one of these warp rings, and he ends up on Earth. He follows Longclaw's instructions to stay hidden, and many years go by, and now we see Sonic at the age he will remain for the rest of the movie. I have to say, I really like that they chose echidnas as the greedy, intelligent species that wanted to take Sonic for his power. It makes a lot of sense when you think about the ancient echidna tribe in the flashbacks on Sonic Adventure 1. And yes, it even makes sense if you consider this one-off, pretty much non-canon RPG that was supposed to have a sequel that never came out called Sonic Chronicles: The Dark Brotherhood. I do, however, wonder what happened to Sonic's parents. They aren't even mentioned at all. Maybe they also had the power of Sonic and were killed, or maybe they gave away Sonic to Longclaw in order to protect him. I would love these questions to be answered. Maybe Sonic's parents are heroes themselves and are fighting evil and don't think Sonic is safe with them. Then again, I've never heard of Sonic's parents in the video games either, so let's maybe not think too much about it. You may question how Sonic has been on Earth for so long and nobody has ever seen him, but it all makes sense. He is incredibly fast after all, and hard to see, and actually someone did in fact see him, but nobody believes him.
I know you're out there, and I know you're real! No, I'm not!
Maybe the one thing that would be kind of a plot hole is the fact that the echidnas saw Sonic back at Green Hill Zone, and humans somehow, after so many years, except one guy, haven't seen Sonic. But think of it this way. Sonic learned his lesson after losing Longclaw, and while he loves running fast, he has been a lot more careful not to be seen as he has matured. And it's Montana. Not many people live there, despite how incredibly large this state is. A pretty safe place to hide, really, if you're small and fast. I guess just watch out for the wildlife, as there obviously is a whole lot of it there. It's not like he's in California where it's way too overcrowded. Sonic ends up, well, stalking people. Yeah, it's definitely stalking. But honestly, he has no choice. He would get bored just hanging out in the woods. Humans are much more interesting creatures than any animal on Earth by far. He learns about the world and popular media through secretly watching TV with people without them noticing. He has comic books and other media at home, but ultimately, he is alone. He makes the most of it and tries to have as much fun as he can by himself, but ultimately is sad that he truly is alone.
Shoo! Did you see that? I did it! I did it! I really am alone. All alone. Forever.
He lets his emotions get the best of him and angrily runs around the baseball diamond many times really fast, and it seems he unleashed a hidden power he wasn't aware he had in his emotional run that unfortunately wipes out all electricity in the Pacific Northwest. Now, coming from Montana all the way to Washington, that is a super long ways. I actually wish there were more implications with this. Yes, we need to have the story focused on Sonic and still make it kid-friendly and leave out some realism, sure. But seriously, the implications that would come from this many people being out of power would have been a very interesting thing to show.
I'm sure no one noticed that giant blue explosion, right?
Maybe even show these issues while Sonic and Donut Lord, as Sonic calls him, are on their road trip. Show some emotional realism and guilt by Sonic. Look, I get that might slow down the pace of the film, sure, but it's not like kids can't handle a realistic situation in films. Look at what Pixar typically releases every year. Onward had a very real situation at the end with both brothers realizing how important each other are, and for the older brother to be seen as the father figure. How about Inside Out? A family of 3 move out from their comfort zone up in Minnesota to move all the way to San Francisco, which is not only the most expensive city in all of North America, but honestly a hard place to really meet people just because everyone has to work so much just to get by there, and it's a completely different atmosphere than Minnesota, not just in terms of climate, but the people there and the local cuisine.
What's broccoli on pizza? That's it. I'm done.
Congratulations, San Francisco! You've ruined pizza. First the Hawaiians, and now you.
I live an hour north of San Francisco, and even though I've traveled to SF so many times in my life or drove through it, it's still a lot to get used to. Moving is a serious thing that they showed in a kid-friendly film. What about DreamWorks? Shrek teaches about the importance of not judging a book by its cover. If you really think about it, it's a mature thing to teach kids to not be so superficial, and they definitely are not dumbing things down with this film. I think kids could have handled a more realistic take on the power being out in the Pacific Northwest, just as long as you don't do something like 28 Days Later, but people killing each other for resources, that is. Every year, Idaho is one of the states more people move to than any other state, so while this state may seem small, Boise, which is the capital and its largest city, has a really large population, and it's hella cold there during the winter, and shockingly, also really hot there during the summer. Portland, Oregon, I think, would have been affected by the blast, and that is a massive city. This was filmed before the protests last year, so that is unrelated, but there would be a lot of angry people there. Seattle would suffer horrendously. That is definitely the largest city in the Pacific Northwest. Plus, it rains a lot there, and no warm showers.
That's no good.
Parts of Canada would be affected, including some of its biggest cities like Calgary, Vancouver, and Edmonton. There is so much they could have done with such a massive power outage. I would have loved to have seen more about that. This was a huge missed opportunity, but yet the plot still thickens as the US government tries to figure out exactly what happened in Montana and even propose the unthinkable, enlisting the help of Dr. Robotnik.
Can't believe you're bringing that freak into this.
Neither can I, but we have no choice.
Well, obviously that's trouble unless you've been living in a cave like Sonic your whole life without any knowledge of popular media for 30 years. Things between Robotnik and the military are already off to a bad start. He smart-mouths the highest commanding officer and essentially sees all these soldiers as useless and prefers his high-tech drones.
This is on the top banana, in a world full of hungry little monkeys. I'm initiating a sweep sequence. 10 miles in every direction should suffice. Is he still looking at me funny? Yes, he is. Tell him to stop or I'll pull up his search history.
You have no idea. The internet is for
Listen, pal, I don't know if you realize I'm sorry, Major. What was your name? Benny. Nobody cares!
It doesn't matter what your name is!
Robotnik finds some unique footprints that his machines find are from a species not of this Earth. He doesn't even bother telling the military of his findings because he wants to find all the facts on his own for his own nefarious schemes. Honestly, that actually does sound very Dr. Robotnik. He goes over to Tom's house as Sonic has left a trail to there. This is, of course, after Tom discovers Sonic hiding in his basement as the robots, and yes, even the useless soldiers, get too close to Sonic's cave. Sonic had accidentally dropped his warp rings into a warp hole that went to San Francisco and was too knocked out by Tom's tranquilizer gun to retrieve them. These rings are stuck atop a very tall skyscraper in San Francisco. After some arguing, Tom agrees to hide Sonic. I think at this point, it's not only because he isn't seeing Sonic as a threat to him, but he clearly doesn't trust Dr. Robotnik. This guy is a good cop and a very great judge of character. Much better than some of the US military here. That's for sure. Robotnik was in fact about to have his robots shoot Tom here, but Sonic stops him, and honestly, this scene is fantastic.
Come on, rack your brain! You might be able to come up with some lame excuse to go on living. In 2, 1...
Wait! Don't hurt him!
Everything about it is well done, actually. Tom's hesitation with an unknown alien and his animosity towards Robotnik, and how very clever Robotnik proves to be here, but then how he gets foiled is just classic. Robotnik, however, doesn't leave empty-handed. Sonic had shed a quill in Tom's house, and Robotnik takes it for himself to learn about Sonic and his powers. After they leave Green Hills, yes, Sonic left Green Hill Zone to live in Green Hills, Montana, Sonic and Tom are about to go their separate ways. Unfortunately, Sonic has no idea where he is going. This scene here is funny and also quite cute and very well done.
Really? You're gonna help me?
Are you coming?
Yes.
He asks Tom to help drive him to San Francisco to retrieve his rings. And now here comes what is an obvious flaw to me and so many others. Sonic runs so much faster than this car can drive. I mean, he went from Montana all the way to the Pacific Ocean and back so quickly. Imagine how fast he can get to San Francisco from there. Why not just get a map? I know people just use their phones for the GPS nowadays, but yes, maps are still sold in stores. He could have just gotten a map and followed a route that would quickly take him to San Francisco in an instant. Movie's over. Unfortunately, that is a flaw that can't be overlooked. But moving on from that, and just focusing on the movie instead of thinking about what Sonic should have done instead, let's continue. Tom is considered a fugitive, and Sonic is of course supposed to be in hiding, so both of them have to lay low while taking this very long road trip. Unfortunately, Sonic has missed so much by always hiding, so he decides to have some fun on this road trip. While they stay at a hotel along the way, Tom reads Sonic's bucket list, and one of the items is to make a real friend. Robotnik is close on their tail. They have another confrontation, but this time against a big tank of a machine from Robotnik, which seems to have one contingency plan after another.
Do I look like a guy with a plan?
Are you being serious right now? You just handed me the blueprints to the most elaborate plan I have ever seen.
Well, I'm like a dog chasing cars.
If by dog you mean somebody that had their goons fill 2 buildings with explosives and kidnap the DA and the assistant DA concurrently, as well as making sure that he was arrested and then interrogated by the Batman, then yes, you are a dog.
They seem to have won against Robotnik until this.
Ha-ha! Nailed it!
Sonic is severely injured and in need of medical attention, but at this point of the trip, they were already in Northern California, so just drive about 3 hours, and they'll get to San Francisco, where Tom's wife, Maddie, is staying with her sister, who seems to have always had it out towards Tom, and never approved of him, and now is given even more reason to despise him, since he is now a fugitive. She becomes the hindsight queen for this scene.
The reporter's hindsight was blasted to superhuman levels. For months, he was able to use his new powers for good, fighting for peace and the American way, with his 3 trusty companions, shoulda, coulda, and woulda.
You're like a black woman in hindsight.
I told you. What did I tell you? Didn't I tell you? 'Cause I told you. And when did I tell you? A long time ago. And what did I say will happen when I told you? Exactly what just happened.
But they subdue her for now. We also see how Sonic gets his signature red shoes here thanks to this sweet little girl who is much nicer than her mom.
No one's ever given me a gift before. I gotta check that off my bucket list. Oh, all right, looking good.
Now we get into the smug, yuppie capital of the world. I mean, downtown San Francisco.
San Francisco is once again the smuggiest city in the country.
Now, I want to comment on them choosing San Francisco. I found too often that the film industry doesn't seem to understand that San Francisco isn't this magical place of wonders anymore, where as long as you have the education, you'll have an incredible career here and afford to live in this incredibly overpriced and extremely overrated city. That just isn't the case anymore. Anyways, at least for this movie, I don't think that's the reason they chose San Francisco. I think there's a more symbolic reason, and I appreciate that. One reason is because for a very long time, the American branch of Sega, that is Sega of America, was headquartered in San Francisco. The American headquarters moved to a less expensive city nearby, but for a very long time, that's where Sega of America was. But ultimately, I think the number one reason they chose San Francisco for the Sonic movie has more to do with Sonic Adventure 2. Now, obviously, in the Sonic games, none of the cities actually have the names of real-life cities. But look at City Escape in Sonic Adventure 2. These hills are clearly just like San Francisco. Look at Radical Highway. And look at this stage with Tails. The bridge very well resembles the iconic Golden Gate Bridge. So for the first time in a long time, I am going to give praise for the use of San Francisco in a film. The next time I would give praise for the use of this insanely overpriced and extremely overrated city that is only good for tourism would be a portrayal of the city in a negative, more realistic light, showing the struggles of everyday people who have to work 80 hours a week just to get by, and those working less are homeless, and some who work all these hours are still homeless and struggling. I'd like to see a film show that. But that's beside the point. Now it's time to point out a flaw that both my wife and I spoke out about when we saw this film for the first time. Didn't we see Sonic running up walls earlier in this film? Why does he suddenly need to go inside the building and use a key to get up to the top? He can't just run up the side of the building? We saw him running up walls earlier. This is an inconsistency that I find to be unacceptable. However, it does lead to a really funny scene involving Tom and Maddie carrying Sonic up the elevator in a bag and people nearby being quite disturbed by hearing a voice in the bag. It was probably the only good part of the crappy first trailer besides Robotnik. Obviously, the second trailer with the much better looking Sonic that we ended up getting in the movie is better. Tom was actually accepted into the San Francisco police force, which honestly sounds like a really good job, as there would be so much to do there, although pretty dangerous considering all the poverty in SF. He uses his clearance to take the elevator up to the top where they find Sonic's rings. Sonic was mad earlier at Tom for wanting to leave his people from Green Hills to take a bigger job in San Francisco, but with Sonic's own hesitation to leave for that mushroom planet, he started to understand that it must have also been a hard decision for Donut Lord to leave his hometown, as Sonic is having second thoughts about leaving Earth. Robotnik arrives with many robots, and now styling his iconic red. Sonic does something even the genius of Robotnik did not expect.
I was not expecting that. But I was expecting not to expect something, so it doesn't count.
And then uses his super fast speed to get through all the missiles and robots, and also warps Tom and Maddie back to Green Hills, but somehow Robotnik is keeping up with Sonic and firing more missiles at him. This leads us back to where we started with Sonic being chased by Robotnik, and back to him narrating the story for just a little bit.
So, here we are again.
See the comparison to The Emperor's New Groove? Although a lot of films actually do this. Of course, Sonic isn't talking back to himself like Cusco did. Then we continue, and I'd say they are very lucky there isn't some huge traffic jam, as San Francisco is full of those. But nevertheless, property is destroyed, and to be realistic, I'm completely certain people have died, but they don't want to show that. Sonic uses his warp rings to try and lose Robotnik, but Robotnik keeps up. Fortunately, Sonic is choosing places that don't have as many people, like the Egyptian pyramids and the Great Wall of China. Although I could have sworn those were huge tourist attractions and had people there all the time. Plus, how is it daylight in China when it seemed to be morning in San Francisco? It seems maybe they resolve this issue later, though, when Sonic takes Robotnik to Green Hills. Perhaps a lot of time had actually passed during these warps, so maybe with it being night in Green Hills, they corrected that and it's not a mistake after all. Sonic looks as good as dead, and Robotnik questions why Tom would want to help this silly little alien, as he calls him. Tom responds with,
That little alien knew more about being human than you ever will. His name was Sonic. This was his home. And he was my friend.
Now remember Sonic's bucket list? It turns out Sonic wasn't dead after all, and he had heard what Donut Lord said and was inspired now that he has a friend, and also his hidden power he accidentally unleashed when he was really sad and angry has come back. But now he is determined and only mad at Robotnik and wants to defend his friends. It isn't explained how here, but I think I know what happened. Sonic, of course, realizes Robotnik has been using one of his quills to keep up with him. But I think when Sonic unleashed his hidden power here, he actually felt the presence of his quill on Robotnik's machine. Robotnik can't keep up, and Sonic sends Robotnik to that mushroom planet and stays in Green Hills. Fortunately, the US government removes Tom from the fugitives list, and they pretend that Robotnik never existed, of course, to cover their asses. In a humorous turn of events, the general gives Tom a gift card for the Olive Garden to reward him for his bravery, as Tom had mentioned the never-ending pasta bowl earlier in the movie.
Have you tried their never-ending pasta bowl? It never ends.
Seriously, this is the Sonic movie. If you're doing product placement, it should have been Sonic Drive-In. Of course, the general wants to know if Tom is harboring an unknown creature, Sonic, and Tom says no. In a big surprise, after telling Sonic to go to his cave, they actually mean the attic. They brought everything from his cave to the attic so he can live with them. It's a very nice and happy ending. I'm not exactly sure how they knew exactly where his cave was. Maybe Sonic told them, or maybe they just knew because Robotnik was there earlier, but I guess that doesn't matter. Sonic now lives with friends and he is no longer alone. Then we cut to Robotnik on the Mushroom Planet. Honestly, this makes me think of Mushroom Hill Zone in Sonic & Knuckles. But in this case, there are no life forms besides, well, the mushrooms themselves. Robotnik believes he can get back to Earth really quickly since he somehow still has a quill from Sonic. That sneaky bastard.
I'll be home by Christmas.
The end credits play, and actually they are really cool, showing 16-bit Sonic doing the things that we just saw Sonic do during the film. The original song they put here is good too, not to mention the already existing songs like Don't Stop Me Now by Queen are great choices. This reminds me of the ending to Pixels. Although I think the song used for the end credits of Pixels is a lot better, I still like the song for the end credits of the Sonic movie. It's hard for me to find a modern song I like, but these ones are good. Of course, there is a secret scene with Tails making an appearance.
If these readings are accurate, he's here. I found him. I just hope I'm not too late.
And he is voiced by the current voice actress from the games. I recognized the voice as soon as I heard it. Overall, I think this movie is pretty great. Is it the best movie of 2020? Definitely not. Is it the best video game based movie? No way. That belongs to Detective Pikachu.
I have an idea.
What are you doing?
Oh, what's this?
Oh, there's a door there. I didn't, probably because it's invisible. You're cooking.
No.
Real cooking is about following your heart, not a recipe.
What are you talking about?
Gas. You're pouring gasoline on.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that went dark fast. I like this. I like this very much.
It's funny, huh? I'll be laughing soon. Huh? Who's laughing now, huh?
Oh, I smell what you're stepping in. That's right, Mr. Mime. You're about to be Mr. Melt unless you start talking.
The source of the R came from the roundhouse.
Yeah, nice work, kid. Maybe there's a little detective in you after all.
But is it a good movie? Yes, it is. Is it a flawed movie? Yes, it is. Sonic suddenly not being able to run up the side of a building didn't make any sense. Sonic riding a car with Donut Lord made their trip much longer. A simple map, or maybe even borrowing Tom's phone to use the GPS, would have gotten Sonic there much quicker. But the plot was pretty good. Sonic was lonely, but then found the right people and made friends. Robotnik is one of the wrong people who wanted to gain his power, like the Echidna tribe on Green Hill Zone at the beginning. It goes to show, be careful who you talk to, but also to know that there are good people out there you can trust. They chose the right locales for this movie, as some represent Sonic in some ways, like Green Hills, Montana, being named after Green Hill Zone, and of course, San Francisco being a lot like the city in Sonic Adventure 2. Who knows what would happen to Tom, since he might still be considered a fugitive at that point, so overall, maybe it was a good thing they worked together even though it took longer. I clearly enjoyed this film, and maybe some of it has to do with my familiarity with the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise and how they put some amazing details in there in regards to it, but I also thought it was a good plot, although yes, flawed. So I'm going to give my rating for this film. It will actually be different than from the first draft, as I thought about it more as I was editing this review. The fact is, there are noticeable flaws in this film, flaws in common sense, flaws in logic, and things they left out that could have made it actually more compelling. But the fact is, I did highly enjoy the film, so it deserves a positive rating, of course. And I'm going to give it a 7.3 out of 10. Let me know what you think about the Sonic movie. Did you enjoy it, or did you think,
that's no good?
Are you looking forward to an expected sequel of this film? Remember, in the very first Sonic the Hedgehog game, it was just Sonic versus Robotnik, so it makes sense Tails didn't appear until that secret scene. It should be exciting to see some other characters appear in later films. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and if you want to see more videos from me, whether they are live streams or react videos, or maybe even more reviews and more Sonic, please subscribe and click that bell icon to add me to notifications.